What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of The Building Code. I'm your co-host, Charlie Birtwistle, and I'm your co-host, Charlie Birtwistle. Yep, that's right. We have a solo Charlie Birtwistle episode today. I know that's everybody's favorite, including my own. Just kidding, of course. I miss Courtney dearly, but she's off across the U.S., out in California today, actually, at a Tech Home Summit. So I'm sure I will have a lot to catch up with her about when she gets back. But for now, making up for Courtney not being here, we have a fantastic guest, Tim Lansford. He's a professional speaker. He's a corporate chainer. He's a business coach and consultant. He also has a building company. He has a real estate company. And we're going to be talking about networking today. That's something that we've hit on a lot before in the Building Code episodes, something that the construction industry is really leaning into over the past 3, 4, 5, 10 years, where it used to be really siloed. Now people are realizing the power of networking, the power of connections. We're trying to do our part with our different Buildertrend universities, and we go to a lot of conferences as well too, connecting like-minded people that want to grow and scale and just become better business owners and better individuals. So super excited to talk to Tim about some of the power that comes with these different networking opportunities and how to get better at it. So without further ado, let's get him in here. Hey, Tim, welcome to the Building Code. Really appreciate you making the time today. How's it going?
Wonderful. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Fired up for this interview. I was going through your website before this, and ton of very valuable experience, and a man of many talents, it seems. So I'm excited to get to know you.
At least I have it on my website. It makes me look important, right? So it's just, yeah. Chat GPT does a lot of that stuff nowadays. I'm just kidding. So lots of experience. I dyed the gray in for business purposes, so I'm probably
smart.
only 23. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So.
Yeah. Should I look into that? Would people maybe take me a little bit more professionally?
You might, So.
That would be awesome. Dang it, Halloween just passed. That could have been a good excuse to kind of beta test it and see how people react. But for those people that haven't had the opportunity to get to know you on your website, we always like to kick off our guests here with just a quick little intro. I'd love to hear a little bit about your backstory, what you did, where you came from, and kind of how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, not a problem. I've been doing this. I pretty much have 3 companies, and my 3 companies consist of, I'm a builder down here in Dallas, Texas. I have a real estate company, and then I have a corporate training company, which coincides with me doing keynotes and speaking across the country for anywhere from, the construction industry all the way up to Fortune 500, military, government, and all that stuff. So I do a lot of different things. So I've been doing this for years and years and years. Just sort of a long story how I stumbled into it, but it was sort of a random, wasn't planned. I didn't grow up in a family business or anything. I was a business person that got into the construction industry and the real estate, and coincide that with, marketing companies and all these different companies I've had over the years. I've sort of narrowed it down to 3 now, I think, but I still do a lot of marketing, consulting, business coaching, and all that stuff out of my training company.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's one of the reasons that we're super excited to have you on today is you're kind of in the perfect intersection of the Venn diagram of people we like to have on the podcast. Obviously, we have a ton of people in the building industry, either customers or suppliers or partners, subcontractors, people of that nature, to really focus on the construction side. And then we really like to bring in just subject matter experts in business growth, personal growth, motivation and networking, and a lot of things that we're going to talk about today. And you have experience in both. I'd actually like to lean a little bit more on the latter there and talk a little bit more about how you got into, the business coaching consulting side of things.
It's one of those things. I grew up with a sort of a microphone in my hand years and years ago, being a club DJ back when I was in my youth, right, to getting on the radio. I've had radio gigs and, done all this stuff for all the beer people and all the on-sites and all that stuff. And that sort of grew into going into, corporate training and doing that. It was just a sort of a natural transition because, people, I'm 100% extrovert. I know it comes as a shock to you, but, getting up in front of the crowd, I was always a person like, come here, let me have the microphone. And that turned into just sort of a speaking. And then one day I noticed that I was doing a lot of speaking speaking. And there was another gentleman that I was always on the stage with. Me and him were booking the same conferences and all this stuff. And finally I came up to him. I said, "Hey, let's go sit down. I'm going to buy you lunch next week because there's one thing that's a reoccurring theme and there's one thing that's not." I said, "The reoccurring theme is we're hitting the same stages all the time. The second thing is you're getting paid, I'm not. So we need to figure that stuff out." Because for me, it was my fun. It was that's sort of my giving back to the world, right? Is be able to speak and all this stuff. And then that turned into a speaking business a long time ago. And then that turned into clients across the country, executive coaching, consulting, and all this stuff. And it just sort of progressed from that way.
That's awesome. I still remember when I was in college, we had like a college career center, and they would do different, events to help young kids figure out what they wanted to do. And the first thing they said is the main thing that stuck with me is like, step one, figure out what you love to do. Step two, figure out how to get paid for it. Right. And that sounds like
that's exactly
your natural progression.
We all get started because of passion and all of that. And then you're like, well, I really want to do this. Let's figure out how I continue down this path. And if you're going to continue on down this path, then ultimately you figure that out and it goes with it. And it's not like making money. It's not like even, going out. I mean, I feel bad billing people sometimes because I just have fun hanging out at conferences and meeting people. And like, well, I got to send you this invoice. Sorry. But, because I enjoy it. I love it. I love giving back, and I think that's one of the big things. You got to give back, and I've been blessed with a lot of experiences in my life. A lot of, I don't even have enough paper or enough, bytes on the website to list everything that I've sort of had my fingers in over the years. So,
yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. One thing I'm curious about is, so you have the building and the real estate company, and then you have this business coaching and consulting company as well too. Are you primarily coaching people in the building real estate industry, or are you kind of across a variety of different industries?
No, I'm across the various industries and stuff. Like I say, I've started out and my training company, I do so many different industries and governments. So I have a lot of people that are in the construction industry, but I have corporate execs that I do with. I work with a lot of HR departments doing consulting and executive coaching for some of their problem kids. Sometimes they do that. That's one of the things is their last ditch effort. They'll put an executive coach with them to see if they can straighten out and correct some bad habits. So, but yeah, across the board on everybody from Fortune 50 all the way down to mom and pop construction. So
I love that. And I'm sure you would agree with that. But one of my favorite things about getting to host this podcast is getting to talk to people across all sorts of different industries. And I feel like no matter what industry you're in or even what company you're in, you always feel like the problems you're facing are the first time anyone's ever faced those problems in the entire world. And I'll be coming in from a big, boardroom meeting where we're all talking about the world is falling and blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk to somebody that's, a remodeler out in Canada or whatever. It couldn't be on polar opposite ends of the spectrum. And I'm like, hey, what you're describing is exactly what we were just trying to solve right here. Tech, construction, mom and pop, printing, manufacturing, like they're all so interconnected. And I love people like you that doesn't, confine themselves to one specific vertical and say, hey, I can share learnings across the vast horizon of different industries that I've worked with before.
Right. And I think that's where it comes in play is to be able to give back and have that knowledge. I mean, here's the big thing for me. A lot of my stuff's based on experiences because I have touched, I've been in, I don't even know, 17 to 20 different industries, over the course of corporate and side companies and doing things, hiring people and setting up telecommunications, packaging, food, restaurant, clubs, everything and all of the above. So I have such a diverse background that really lends to the coaching to be able to tell people because people come up with things and you're exactly right. And I get this when I'm teaching one of my classes that, we start asking questions, what's going on? And lo and behold, I said, there's usually about 7 things that everybody has going on across everybody, but they think it's their own problem. And once they figure that out, man, they're engaged. Like, what do you mean? Everybody's got this problem. I'm like, everybody's got this problem, And everybody thinks, oh, I'm a small company, especially in the construction industry. I'm a mom and pop place. Well, I'm 80% of the people out there are mom and pop that have less than 8 and 5 people, and that's the general is and and a lot of people don't understand that they fit in a box somehow, and it works out really good once they figure it out, because it changes their mindset and their perception of who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you just hit on right there is a perfect kind of segue is, changing the perception and realizing that there's a different way to do things. I think
Yeah.
one of the key topics that we want to hit on today is the power of networking. And that has just been a
Hmm.
dramatic, even, I've been hosting the podcast the last 4 or 5 years or so, a dramatic shift I've seen across the construction industry over that same time frame is the buy-in, the mindset shift, the realization there's a better, different way to do things, and the power of that connectivity. Before is a very, very fragmented industry where everyone thought they had, their own trade secrets, and they had their own subcontractors that they didn't want to share, and they had their own way that they went about estimating and financing. And slowly and surely you start seeing these different conferences pop up, and these different Builder 20 groups, and these different Power 30 groups and contractor coalitions, and all these
Hmm.
like-minded people coming together, sharing what's worked, sharing the things that haven't worked, and ultimately elevating everyone up together. So I'd love to kind of hear your take on, the power of networking, the maybe some key strategies for building these lasting connections, specifically in the construction industry, but across all industries as well too.
Yeah, and I'll reference, the construction industry, and we'll blend into that. One of the first things I tell people about networking is, and we have so many people that join associations and stuff that are new, and I'm members of, I think I'm a member of, I don't even know all the different associations. It's,
Right.
I won't take up airtime for that, but like, 10 associations I'm a member of, and we do network in each, and one of the big things is that people try to expect too much coming in. They're, especially in the construction, I see associates show up and they're like, "Hey, I joined, so I need all your business as a builder," right? So they're coming to me and going, "Well, I joined the Builder Association, so how do I get on your bid list?" I'm like, "Well, you can get on my bid list, but just telling you, I don't always go with the lowest price. That doesn't mean you're going to earn my business." And what it is, basically, networking to me is it's relationship. And I tell them that. I tell them in all associations that if you can't develop a relationship with them, and that's when it's going to happen. You got to be present. A lot of people show up, they go once or twice, they don't get anything out of it, and then they don't go back to the association, and well, I didn't get anything out of that. Well, did you try? I said sometimes you have to put in the time to be able to connect that, because and you have to establish that connection, that thing where I trust you, so my walls come down, because just because you're talking to me doesn't mean I trust you. And then at that point, you go through the process of, people make the big mistake. And another one, while it's on my mind, I'll say, is they try to go for volume, and they try to get 20 people in a networking event. And the best way to do is pick out three and nurture that relationship, and let those three introduce you to the other 30. And then that's giving you sort of a pat on the back, saying, "Oh, this guy's really good. I've been talking to him. I've talked to him the last three networking sessions. I'm sort of handhold. Let them introduce you," because it's giving you your own little referral. And sort of like, I pitched in a lot of my classes back in the 90s when I was getting started in this business. I always had business cards that had blank backs. And I would always write on the back saying, "This is the company that I told you did such a great job on my house." And I would write it on 30 cards. And then I would go out to the Galleria and I would just throw them down on the floor, leave them on benches, leave them there, and people would pick them up. So instantly you're giving yourself your own referral based on your business card. And they'd always call me, "Well, my friend referred you," and I know where the card came from,
Yeah.
because that was my target market that I was going after. So
Yeah, that's a super smart strategy. It's almost the way you're describing it there is you are almost selling yourself the same way that you would sell a product or a platform like Buildertrend. Like I was connecting a ton of similarities of how you were just describing key efficiencies for networking yourself with the same way one of our sales reps would go about trying to sell Buildertrend. You can't just smile and dial
exactly.
and cold call and say, "Hey, I'm Charley Burwissel with Buildertrend, blah, blah, blah." They're going to
Yeah.
hang up and forget all about you, but you nurture that
Yeah.
relationship, you check in on them, you find some key commonalities. And once that
Hmm.
relationship's built, then it becomes, just like you said, something that they're going to want to tell other people about. And that's when you start having the
Yeah.
network effect and they grow and grow.
And in sales, and you reference that just like here, you need to be calling somebody every couple months, right? Every month, if you're trying to get in there, hey, I was just thinking about you. Or what you do is if you're a shy introvert and you don't like that, what you do is you find articles, and that's sort of like a catch that I always taught in my classes is find an article. Hey, I read this article on blue widgets being made in Asia. I thought of you. I just want to send it. You probably have read it, but and you send them something of value, and you're creating this value where it's a touch point. And we've heard touch points in sales, but it's the same with projecting who you are as a person. You got to get that credibility because when everybody meets everybody in a network situation, we all have our walls up, right? Me as a builder to have 20 associates, I got my name on there. They're going to come over and everybody's going to want their, and it's like sometimes you just get there. I'm 100% extrovert. Sometimes I'll go to like like the IBS show. Sometimes I'll put a sports coat on, and everybody thinks since I'm in a sports coat and a suit, they think that I'm one of the associates. So they don't go and holler at me as a builder. But if I wear my builder clothes, my gosh, I'm wore out by the end of the day. So there's a happy medium between getting to know people. But I mean, if you're constantly reaching out and doing what you say you're going to do, if you promise you're going to do something, make sure you do it. I have so many people go, I'll get that to you tomorrow. And 2 weeks later, you're like, write them off, card in the bin, right? So it's the way it is.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you're hitting on there is just authenticity. And there's a
Yes.
fine line between, going back to my previous point, selling and being authentic about something, because people can sniff that out from a
Yes.
mile away, right?
Yeah, because if you're not authentic, you're not going to build trust. I mean, we're all super sensitive now. It used to not be as super sensitive, but with the way our brain reacts and our attention spans because of the internet and all our stimulations in the world, we can see people through that instantly if they're not authentic, and if they're not authentic, pretty much you're going into the delete category in the brain because that brain instantly is sorting out all the goods and bads, and you're going over in the bad file, and I'm not going to remember your name next time I see you. So, because you're in the bad file.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So my typical co-host Courtney Matern isn't here right now. She's going to a conference, but we went to a conference together in Boston a few weeks ago, which was really interesting because neither one of us have any background in sales. And, there's 20, 30, 50 very, very successful builders there. And they'd come over and, Buildertrend, we'd have to start every single conversation like, hey, we're not salespeople. We're horrible at salespeople. If you have any questions, we can tell you about it and we'll go back and forth. But it was kind of counterintuitive to me at the time, but it's making a ton more sense now. We got way more, leads and connections and eventually even sales from that sort of interaction where it's just talking person to person as opposed to us going in, we could have sent one of our rock star sales reps that could have gone there and, hounded people and signed someone up on the spot for sure. But that connection
Mhm.
was way more powerful than I anticipated going into it.
Yeah, and then if you can build that connection, that's stuff that's going to last. That's gonna do that deeper connection that's going to last the through the time of all the not using you, not doing this, and not knowing your name and all that stuff. If you can build that deeper connection, I always put it like this, and I sort of stumble on that because I didn't know if I wanted to go down a rabbit hole because you know me and
Oh,
we talked about rabbit holes,
I
right?
love rabbit holes.
Cognitive dissonance is your brain, right? And your brain has this big weeding center where if it's in a like category, it likes, and I touched on it a second ago. And if it's in the bad quarter, it just throws it away. And I reference this a lot of times in my talks is if you buy a new pickup and you went out and bought a brand new pickup, it was white, it's got this stripe on it, 250 or whatever it is, big wheels and tires. Well, you think you got the bad one but it's the most unique one in the world, but then you drive out of the dealership. Well, there's a white one, but it don't have the black stripe and it isn't lifted. And then you get on the highway and you see another white one, another white one, another white one. And then there's one exactly like yours. There's two exactly like yours because our brain has a filter. And once we get that filter going, it starts filtering out all the information because we get millions and millions of bytes of information and it just throws it out. So when you're networking, you got to figure out how to create a scenario where I'm like, I like this guy. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by being authentic, going for those deeper connections and building that long-term relationship. Because if you're just going around picking up business cards, I ain't going to remember you the next day. And that networking is never going to work. But that's the mentality of a lot of people now. How many business cards can I get? How can I give these to my boss? So when I talk to him and all this. And if I could tell anybody, the bosses, just tell them to bring you back 5 business cards. That's all you want. And that's one of the best things you could do is I've spent 3 hours at this networking. I have 5 business cards. Perfect. That's what I want.
Yeah, I love that. And it's happening once again where everything that you're talking on right now, I'm thinking back to meetings I just came out of earlier today. So appreciate this free coaching session that we're doing right here on the podcast.
No worries. I'm glad I could help, right?
One of the things that you hit on a couple questions ago before I interrupted and talked about what a great job I did at that conference I went to, is you mentioned a little bit about how the landscape is changing to be more digital, and you're not just fostering connections anymore by handing out business cards, but you're following people's socials, you're checking out their websites like I did with you right before this, emailing links, which I love that idea. That's another thing I wrote down here. So talk to me a little bit about how the networking landscape has evolved as these digital platforms are continuing to be on the rise.
Well, here's the thing about digital. It has its pluses and minuses, right? And sometimes it's overwhelming to people, but I always tell people that if you send something out to somebody, it has to have some value. It's sort of like I reference this. I'll go to real estate for a second. I tell my real estate agents, if you want to send a postcard out saying, oh, I could list your home, go and ask that homeowner how many postcards. He gets 200 postcards in the first weekend of his house not being on the market, right? That's just what people do. But if you send out a letter saying, hey, just to let you know, I'd like to list your house. It's not listed. Your listing expired. Here is your comps. This is what your house worth. And you've been sending over monthly going, your house is now worth $400,000. Your house is now worth $475. Your house is now worth $500. I'm going to take that little piece of paper. I'm going to put it in a file. I'm going to put it on the side of my desk because if I'm going to sell in the next year, I want to keep this. You're giving me information I can use. If you just send me a postcard, it's not going to do anything. You go back to branding and marketing. You look at all the like Nike. Nike doesn't sell shoes, right? If you've heard all these things about all the branding and stuff. If you look at hotels, go to Ritz, it doesn't show pictures of the room. It shows pictures walking down the beach. It shows pictures at the people at the spa. You have to show experiences. You have to show something that they can put themselves in, touch the senses. If you can touch all the different senses, that's going to help you and your marketing, your branding. So when you're creating the online digital networking thing, the bit beauty of this is you get to broaden your horizons. I mean, we have this everlasting reach now more than ever, and through LinkedIn and through all these different things that you can do, and direct mail, some of the MailChimps and all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you can do, and I would always tell people, get it where it's targeted. Number one, know where it's going, know what you're trying to accomplish out of everything you send out, and have follow up in place to be able to go what worked, what didn't, and that's one of the biggest things that people make the mistake of. They don't have a plan. They just send it out with no plan in place, and then nothing ever happens, and they're just wasting dollars and they're wasting their time sending all these requests out. And one of the things that I'll tell you real fast is like LinkedIn. LinkedIn, the first thing I do is I go through a company that I really want to speak at, and I friend all their warehouse guys. I friend all their truck drivers. Then I friend all the people in the office. Then I friend all their salespeople, because they're the people who are going to click on, they're going to like, yep, I don't know who this guy is, but yep, yeah, sure, I'll be friends of him. LinkedIn, right? Now I'm getting up into the levels. Well, I get up into the sales manager. I get up in the vice president or president. They don't know who I am, but they're like, did this guy speak at a conference or something for us? Well, he's friends with 45 people in my company. Click, they'll friend me. Now I have that easy access to that person. So it's just little things like that. If you think outside the box on some of these things, it can be really beneficial for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was connecting the dots in my head as you were talking there, but a lot of the same strategies that you were just laying out for a digital networking strategy is exactly the same that you were talking about before with, like, as you go to conferences. What good is 500 LinkedIn connections if you don't know anything about them, right? way more powerful to have 3 business cards at the end of the event, or have 3 LinkedIn connections that you sent something to, you provided value to, you made a meaningful relationship with. So yeah, there are more avenues and more mediums now, Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, to have a wider reach. But unless you're doing the work and providing value and doing it intentionally, it's a waste of time, right?
Correct. Correct. You have to be intentional in your actions. Time's a very valuable thing, and if you're not pre-planning your day, pre-planning what you're trying to accomplish, going through your goal setting and all that stuff, and everything that marketing, every digital and network and every networking event, you have to pre-plan. Look and see who you want to connect with.
I love that. So what if someone's listening to this, they're getting super fired up about networking right now. Woohoo! Where do you typically tell people to start? Is it just a land grab? Do you go out and try to find as many conferences as you can? Do you list out goals first of what you're trying to do? Assume you're talking to
Well,
a mom and pop shop, or anybody really that's like, I really like what they're preaching here and I want to get more involved. How do you start?
first thing I tell people is figure out where your tribe is. Where's your tribe? If it's construction, is it telecommunications, is it computers, is it there? Find your tribe. And through your tribe, you'll always have somebody there's always going to be an association for that tribe. That's one of the big things. I'm part of like SHRM, Toastmasters, PMI, the interior decorator, designers. I've got all of these people, but they're my tribe, right? That's where I get a lot of my speaking stuff. So I network through the tribes that I have, right? And if you can network through your tribes first, then you're going to establish connections where they're going to have the again, it's like in sales. You can take all this back to sales. It's sort of a warm lead. If you get to friends with people in your association, if I'm a member of somebody in SHRM, well, that person in SHRM probably knows 200 corporate execs that are coming to the meetings, or they know everybody. So if even if it's another speaker with the NSA, they sometimes are like, hey, I'm not a fit for this, Tim, but you're a fit. I can tell because you got a little bit more personality than I do. I'm a little bit more thinker personality. They need somebody that's bubbly on stage, and they'll introduce you. And that's what you want to be able to get. Start with your tribe, start building that tribe, start building every little networking around your. Here's one of the things that I always tell people is take your office or your home, make it your database, and draw a circle around it, and have that get a compass, draw a circle, 1 mile radius, and then do a 2 mile radius and a 3 mile radius. If it's in 1 mile and it's a networking event or it's a breakfast or something, you better put it on your calendar because it's a mile from your house or your office. 2 miles still needs. 3 miles, you still need to. If there's not anything in 1 or 2, go to the 3 miles. And then just see how far you can go out. Because if it's in your home territory, you better be going to everything that's posted up. I mean, charity events, networking breakfasts, a lot of the cities have them, and it's a blanket for all the companies and Better Business Bureau. There's so many avenues that you can network through. It's just find out what's in your area and find out who your tribe is.
I love that. Tim, we're getting close to time here, but I always like to wrap these things up with, I always assume our listeners are super fired up because I get super fired up during these. If someone's listening to this, how can they learn more about your work, connect with you, find out about some of your training, coaching, speaking? Where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, best place to find me is timlansford.com, TIMLANSFORD.com, or email me, tim@timlansford.com. Just follow up with me, and I can help you in any way possible. We do a lot of stuff for a lot of people across the world, actually. I'm not just U.S. based. We got some people across the pond. So, but yeah, we'd love to help you in any way. I'd love to help you. And yeah, there we go. I appreciate you having us on today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was fantastic interview. We'll definitely link the website and your email that you just listed up in the show notes as well too, if people want to go check those out. Otherwise, Tim, really, really appreciate your time. This is awesome. Lived up to the hype of what I was expecting coming into this. So thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you too much.
Bye. Well, we just heard from Tim Lansford talking about networking. And I said it a little bit in the outro there, but that was incredibly motivational to me. I wrote down a ton of notes, as always. At some point, I need to start just publishing the notes that I write down in our show notes. It's kind of key debriefs and action items and things that I learned throughout the interview. But Tim was great. I think that a couple things that he really resonated with me is just being really, really intentional with your networking. Don't just go to go. Don't just go to get 100 business cards or 50 LinkedIn connections, but find something that really resonates with you. Make something that really resonates for the person that you're talking to. Figure out how to foster that relationship and sell yourself. And then the network effects from that will just continue to grow and scale, and other people will tell other people, and ultimately you'll get to where you want to go. So a lot of things that he talked about really resonated with things that I think we're trying to do here at Buildertrend, and based on other people I've talked to in the construction industry, things that other really, really prominent, successful business owners are trying to do as well too. So like I said, in the show notes, we will have the website link for tims.com if you're interested in learning more. If not, I will hear you next time on The Building Code. I'm Charley Burtwhistle. As always, make sure to like, review, subscribe. I'm really struggling without Courtney here for the outro, so I will wrap it up. I will see you next time. Peace. Thanks for watching the video. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content brought to you by Buildertrend.